Like a Tom, they got the mic. In the shadows, they ignite. Horror tales and sci-fi vibes. Fantasy world with comic tribes. Monsters lurking in the night. Spaceships soaring out of sight. Dragons breathing fiery fright. Heroes battling for the light. It's the first, the last, the Nerdom show, where geeky legends always grow. Listener join and let it flow. Diving deep and feel the glow.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for a live television first as we attempt to commune with the devil. We are welcome to the First, the Last, the Nerdom, your go-to podcast for all things pop culture, where we dive into the latest, greatest in movies, TV, and nerdy discussions. This week, we're stepping into the world of horror with the chilling new film, well, not quite so new, but Late Night with the Devil. We'll break down the creepy thrills and dark suspense of the movie, but we're also asking a bigger question. Is this found footage film? Is it the next evolution in horror or just a clever trick? Tune in as we discuss the eerie story, its unsettling atmosphere, and the filmmaking style that makes it stand out. So grab your favorite late night snacks, settle in, and get ready for another deep dive into the world of nerdom right here on the First Last Nerdom. And I'm Tom, and I'm here with Mike. How's it going?
How's it going, Tom? I am good. I am 5x5, as they say, ready to go, ready to roll. Yeah, this one was fun. I'm so happy that I find the best movies by you. This one was fun, unexpected. I went in again, like most time, like I go in completely blind. I don't even read the thing. I just make sure I bookmark it on my watch list, and then I have it ready to go, or search it, and then I'm good. And then I'm off to the
Yeah.
races. And this one is it doesn't wait long. This one, Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah, I was it came out roughly this time last year,
Right.
and it had like a huge buzz about it, and from what I heard, it sounded interesting, but I didn't know, it seemed kind of simplistic, demon possession on a late night talk show, and
Right.
I was afraid that the hype was bigger than what the movie would deliver on, and I was pleasantly surprised and wrong on that account.
Hmm.
And after I watched it not too long ago when it hit Hulu, I hit you up, so we got to talk about this movie. I know we missed our prime opportunity during Halloween to discuss it, but
You did
we're not
tag
going
me.
to wait a whole nother year before we talk about this.
Yeah, well, and the thing is that it would be great as a Halloween film, but also really it's a general purpose film that you can watch at
Yeah.
any time of the year. We're right up on Christmas, New Year's, and this one fit
Yeah.
in just fine. That's why I
Yeah.
loved it, actually, because of the one of my all-time favorite subtopics, I suppose, or latest phase that I've gone through, which is the late night talk show things. I know I've driven you crazy
Yeah.
with all my stupid Tom
Yeah, you were
Snyder
giving me
and yeah.
sending me all sorts of little clips, and yeah, I know you're obsessed. So yeah, when I watched it, I was this will be right into his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
This will be perfect. And also, yeah, it's sort of like our little nightmare before Christmas to kind of give you
I
a
love it.
little tease there.
Love it. Love it.
but
Love it.
but yeah, it's we also had some little demon possessions in our cars lately. I know
Oh
I was going
gosh.
to commiserate you and tell you about my car trouble, and then you topped mine, you trumped my my car trouble with yours. So I think we had a little demon possession. I don't know if it was Christine or not, but
I have it is what it is, and the thing, and it's always sucks when you run into gremlins, and you're always going to run into gremlins,
mhm,
especially when you're on your way to something important, like
mhm.
the speed of life. Yeah, no, we did, yeah, no,
Yeah.
that was not fun, but thankfully, still. It took a little bit of my day away, but for the most part, it is what it is. You move on, and you
Mhm.
adapt, and you go, and you keep moving forward. There's only one direct.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I'm sure there's like a Shawshank Redemption, moving
I'm
forward.
sure there.
Jean-Luc Picard quote there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not the guy to deliver that line. But I will say this:
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and jump here into the thing, to the bona fides, and I'll
Mhm.
let you do the honors, my friend.
Yes, we're the first, the last of Nerdom. You found us on YouTube. We have our own channel. We talk about all things within the nerdom spectrum, whether it be movies, as in horror, sci-fi, fantasy, and sometimes we dabble in film noir, and we've done a western, and we have done a
Yes.
gangster movie. So yeah, we
Yeah, we
we've
did
kind of covered
Mafia.
it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we also talk about comic books. And so, yeah, if you came to us because of this and are in a horror mood, we've got plenty of horror. We've been
Oh
around for
God.
a few years, and we kind of cover things topically. So yeah, we've got some back catalog on some Christmas horror movies that we've discussed in the past. So if you're sort of in the mood, you could watch our Black Christmas special. As well as some others. But yeah, we also have a presence on Reddit. I find different Reddits to go to, and lately we've been a bit successful. And then I'm the first last nerdom on Reddit. I'm also on X. Yep, Reddit over there, and X. I'm just recently became first last nerdom on X. Due to Mike and his generosity,
All good.
but yeah, yeah. If you want to
Pennies on the
catch up
dollar.
on what we're posting on YouTube, I usually keep you updated on X, and then I might just post something a little bit random on there as well. And then Mike, you have some socials as well.
I do. I do. I am also. Should you wish to join us in the community, the town square, so to speak, of the internet, where everything is fake and everything is real at the same time. I am ApeIt_Ink. You can find me there, opposite of Tom. Would love to hear from you or tag us if you want. This is kind of my general purpose account with the world, etc. And Tom puts out what he likes, he does it in a more casual manner. I sometimes write about some of the stuff that I like on my website, ApeIt.Ink. Sometimes it's heavy, sometimes it's light, sometimes it's just whatever the hell I find that is cool on the internet, and that could range from technical stuff to my favorite movie of this year, 2024, is Civil War. Da 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 da. Da. You get the point. But here we are, in one more week
Mhm.
down, and you found this via Hulu, and I love it. And the more I went in, I knew it instantly. I would love
Mhm.
this film, and that was true. So I wanted to love it because of the thing. I gotta say, I got. I'm so excited to see like what you. Well, I'll wait for you. But where do you want to jump in on this guy? Like the late night show, or
Mhm.
you said found
Yeah,
footage, and is it not? I don't know.
yeah.
There's a lot to unpack here. I know we went ultra long on under the Silver Lake because there was so much to talk about. And actually, there's probably even more
Mhm.
because I watched that movie another two, second time and a third time,
Mhm.
with the little mini me units, and my daughter loved it. It was good. We had to fast forward through some parts, but aside from that,
Yeah.
not too bad. But
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I wouldn't have been comfortable watching some of it with the kids. But yeah, the Late Night with the Devil, it's a came out in 2023 at the tail end. And again, I heard some rumblings about it. I keep my ear to the ground when it comes to horror, and
yes,
yeah,
you
the
do.
people were saying, hey, this is good stuff. And then I used to have a Shutter account, and this is sort of in done in conjunction with Shutter.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's a movie about a late night talk show host who was competing with Johnny Carson and in an alternate reality or alternate world, and he's kind of getting down in the dumps as far as ratings, and
Hmm.
it's sweeps week, and he's trying to stir up some interest with a live demon possession on the channel and on his show, and so it's filmed like a
Hmm.
it's yeah, I would jump to the chase. It is sort of a found footage movie in that it's a broadcast that was I guess never seen after it was shown live, and this is sort of like them digging it out. The beginning of the movie, it's sort of like some narrator kind of giving you sort of a intro, like maybe
Right.
it was is being shown again on television for the first time, and they're sort of
Right.
again, and they're kind of doing the little intro to everything. But yeah, it's got a very interesting kind of setup. So, even if it is a found footage, it's done in a kind of a unique way,
Hmm.
that's not your typical found footage type movie where it's, a couple of teenagers running around in the woods with a shaky cam. It's
Right.
got the nice production of a television. Actually, they filmed it. They kind of ran across the idea of maybe filming it as like with the old cameras that they had on back in the day on a TV show,
Hmm.
which they decided to go with digital, and then kind of you know kind of do a little bit with the film to make it look like a old television screen. But they had someone that actually used to work on television sets or television shows back in the day to help light it and to make it look as authentic as they could.
Yeah, they did a good job, even with the graphics
Mhm.
and the aspect ratio. Even
Yeah.
they really put you in the seat of
Hmm.
being, if not a late night, like you were there, like you would
Hmm.
find on YouTube. Or the premise was very easily acceptable. And I'm gonna go to non-serious pictures here because I don't know why they're leading off with so many different ones. But
Crazy was, yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
and I will say I one thing that was kind of surprised me when I started digging into the movie, because I like to do a little research on the
sleuthing,
movie after I see it to give maybe our audience a little behind the scenes look
right?
at it. But it's actually an Australian movie.
Hmm.
It was by the writer directors of Colin and Cameron Cairnes, and they're Australian. A lot of the actors outside the lead are Australian, and they they hid their accents pretty well, because I didn't notice that. But it's Australia. You don't think of Australia when it comes to horror, but we've actually covered quite a few horror
We have.
Australian movies, like The Babadook, Talk
Yep.
to Me, and we haven't talked about it, but Wolf Creek is another great horror movie from Australia, which hopefully we'll talk about in the future. But yeah, it's like I said, Australian's not known for its horror, but
Right.
darn it, they got some great stuff coming out of there.
I think they got something going on down there because they got some
Mhm,
very talented folks that are absolutely willing to put it out there and make
mhm,
really good movies. All
mhm.
those all
Yeah.
those ones that we watched were we all enjoyed them very much. And I this one I slid into this one. The only thing that was annoying was the the intro was like you were saying it was like this studio and that studio. They showed like five different
Oh yeah.
studios, like so many times. That was the and
Yeah, that was very annoying. That was
and
very
and
annoying.
and I, as a fan, I should not be annoyed by that. But like when because I want them to get credit because we're all about the
Mhm.
artist and the
Right,
director and
absolutely.
writer. We're absolutely all about that. So to their vision, there's people that have to fund these things, and there are studios, so they should absolutely get their thing. Just to be fair,
Mhm.
but putting
Yep.
that aside, if I'm being a petty little consumer, that was really super annoying. I actually started like fast forwarding through it. I was like, this is annoying. And then I stopped because I thought I was too aggressive. Nope. It was like a minute and a half before you get into the, it's like, okay.
The actual
It,
movie.
it was almost
Yeah.
comical, really. Honestly, it was kind of almost satirical in its own right. So you appreciate where it
Yeah,
is, but
it's absolutely. Yeah, and then it took them 10 years to write the screenplay, and
did it
I
really?
guess maybe throughout that time, that may be kind of a history of maybe the different people that were involved in this movie. But
Right.
that could be yeah, it was, even though, yeah, like I said, everybody should get their credit.
Right.
And but yeah, maybe shorten it down, or maybe just do a card instead of their traditional animations. Yeah, it got a little annoying there.
Yes.
But
But
but yeah,
all
they
joke.
they kept mhm, mhm.
Go ahead.
No, they came up with the idea about 10 years ago, and yeah, they thought about, what would be a real cheap and easy way to make a movie. It's like, oh, we'll have it all on one set, a television set, and then then from there they had to create a story that was good enough to film. And I think the 10 years really shows on it, because this is a
Mm.
really tight movie where there are some little inconsistencies, or maybe things that aren't quite right, but they're very few and very far between. It's really solid story that on my second viewing of it, it's like I was seeing stuff that I didn't see the first time around. And it's like
Yeah.
very very solid movie that encourages future viewings. But yeah, there's like little things like I noticed, like when they were showing the ratings list, they have every show put together, all the late night shows with the regular primetime shows with the
Right.
ratings. Is like, no, that's never how they did it. They broke it up into different time slots. Carson didn't compete with primetime TV shows, but
Yeah,
that
there's
stuff
some.
you can overlook.
Yeah, there were some things that were a little off. Like there was like one part, like where the movie kind of transitioned, and it kind of dawns on you that like, wait, why would this be like this? But you quickly kind of
Mhm.
get dropped back into it very quickly. So there's only like
Yeah.
maybe a couple jarring transitions that kind of pull you out
Mhm.
and kind of suspend disbelief a little bit, but nothing to spoil the overall atmosphere and the
Mhm.
flow of the movie. Again, I love the studio, and the studio concept, the TV studio, whether it's a talk show or whatever, has been done forever. It's like its own trope anyway. Like you think of
Mhm.
the Joker, you think of kind of that whole scene, which may or may
Mhm.
not dip into that, but we're not giving anything away. But there's that. There's also kind of like, I was curious. I want to ask you. So they spent a lot of time, and you're very right. This is a solid movie. All the squares, all the four corners are sharp and crisp and solid. And everything built
Mhm.
on top of it, it goes exactly to. I would not be surprised if there was not like another cut of this, or could be a cut in the future. Maybe, I don't know. Probably not, but of like an alternative ending, I could easily see like where they would go another direction, as they often
Mhm.
do in films, depending upon if it's
Mhm.
the studio's thing. Although this film
Mhm.
didn't suffer from that; it's very independent, I believe. Correct?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
anyway, getting back to the premise of my question, I wanted to ask you. So, who did this remind you of in feel and tone and style, as far as it goes? Because I'll save my answer, but I'm very curious to hear yours. Like who it was maybe modeled after, based on your knowledge and your kind of your perspective. I was curious. This is a nerd question to ask, because I love the late night thing. But I was curious to see what you thought. Who was this person most modeled after, as you could see it? Because I have a couple
Well,
ideas.
well, yeah, I think actually that's a good thing. I was going to ask you about the late night, since you've been watching a lot of late night stuff recently, what your thoughts were. But yeah, David, I'll butcher his last name, Dastmalchian, is the lead in this, and he plays Jack, the late night talk show host. He does an amazing job, and it's very easy to make it a parody,
Right.
which he doesn't. He's a real character in this, really solid character. And I will say, to kind of talk about David Dastmalchian, he's a huge nerd like us.
Mm.
He's big into comic books. He actually is writing comic books. His own IP. He writes a comic book called Crowley, and he also is currently writing a limited run on
Spider.
Creature Commandos. Yeah, and so yeah, he knows his stuff. He also's really into those um those horror host kind of things, like Elvira and Svengoolie and all of those kind of horror host, and so he
Mm.
actually wrote an article about them in the rebirth of the Fangoria magazine. And I think that was had a little bit of to do with him getting onto this movie. But yeah, he knows his stuff as far as
God, he's so talented
for, and
too. Yeah.
he's kind of a darling for our channel, because he was in the Dune remake, the
Absolutely.
first Dune,
Yeah.
part one. He's also was in Yeah, the Suicide Squad as the Dot guy,
I remember him.
which
Yeah.
was awesome.
He has a
Yeah,
very
he's the
Andy Kaufman kind of iconic type face, also that is
mhm,
very unique to him. That
mhm,
reminds you kind of echoes of, because he is a solid actor. He is
mhm,
not. I have not watched one bad performance of anything.
mhm,
Now maybe the movie
yeah,
was a little bit a little bit shaky, maybe, but for the most part, you're
mhm,
you're getting your money's worth. I think more than not with him
mhm.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and then he's quite different in every one of his roles. But as far as what late night talk show, like I said, he wasn't really parroting anybody, so there's not anyone that really jumps out.
Mm.
Although since this is an Australian movie and the guys are roughly our age that made it, so they're familiar with,
Our generation,
growing
yeah.
up with late night shows, but on the Australian side of things. And I know I did listen to the commentary on the movie because I ended up getting the 4K of this from Second Sight, which we'll talk about later. But they mentioned that there's a Australian host there called, well, he's a New Yorker that had a late night show on in Australia, and his name was Don Lane, and we'll
Mm.
maybe talk a little bit more about him and in relationship with a guest he had on. But yeah, I could see the
Oh yes.
parallels after I watched a little bit of Don Lane. I saw the parallels, but as far as an American host, maybe something I don't know. I've heard people comparing to Conan O'Brien, but I
Mm.
don't. I could kind of see that a little bit,
I
but
could
yeah,
see
as far
that a
as
little bit
yeah,
too. Yeah, he definitely has like a Conan O'Brien kind of warmth.
mm-hmm,
And here's how nerdy I'm going to get. He absolutely has Conan O'Brien's warmth and kind of that self-deprecating. Well, not quite
mm-hmm,
self-deprecating, but like self-awareness, maybe a little bit.
yeah, yeah,
Because he is a very self-aware character. Um,
mm-hmm,
on the first part of the first half of the film, it's very enduring and it pulls you in, and then kind of the second half of the film, it kind of takes a little bit more of a negative turn, I would say. But
mm-hmm,
anyway, going back to kind of
mm-hmm,
to kind of connect the positive and the negative on that battery terminal there, and spark
mm-hmm,
something. I got echoes of Cavett. I also got some Tom
mm-hmm.
Schneider, but more Dick Cavett, with just kind of
Yeah,
how
I
he
saw. Yeah.
because Dick Cavett has a very unique way of interviewing people and guests, and he actually does like I agree with a few other nerder YouTubes. This is like from a music channel that I follow, like a producer guy that explains kind of like the technical things behind this or that. I'm not musical at all for to save my life, but he's just fast. He just has a very good way about it. But he was talking about his perfect interview is, and it was the Dick Cavett show. Anyway, but yeah, that's what I got.
Mhm,
But I could see other things. But anyway, it made sense for the time, and they even give you like a little story arc too of the show, because you're not just
mhm,
you see they kind of montage it a little bit, and then they narrate it in, and they drop you in. So they slowly
mhm,
step you to like the event. Essentially, it is kind of
mhm,
like the first part is like this, it is the actual show that they don't spend too long there, but you get the background here and there. And I thought that was very unique. I still didn't quite get the connective tissue, and I think that's what I did not see a lot in the first viewing.
mhm,
I'm not quite on a second viewing all the way. I haven't got completed that lap. I'm about halfway through, but
mhm,
I did see some stuff that stood out, made sense. But that's the beautiful thing about these things, right? It
mhm,
draws you in. It's you think it's going to be one thing, and no.
mhm,
So the found footage, I don't know. Well, that's how they kind of you know you're seeing these lost tapes,
mhm,
there's another name too for that,
mhm.
uh uh kind of, well, I'll mention that a little bit later on the show. I don't want to spoil it because of what I was saying, but found footage is a good way to put it. I'll leave it at
Yeah, yeah, and the little intro, which kind of gives you the backstory of the show. That was narrated by Michael Ironside, which kind of gives it kind of a gravitas to it.
Oh
Which
yeah, it did.
I knew I'd heard that voice before, but I didn't
I did
realize
not
that was
put that
Michael
together.
Ironside. Which he's a big horror vet, so it was nice hearing him. There's a lot of parallels to real life figures, like you were talking about with Jack and the host of it. But also Ian Bless, he plays the psychic debunker, and I immediately knew he was parroting the Amazing Randy, which the Amazing Randy, if those old younger people out there don't know who he is, he was a magician that kind of stopped being a magician and decided to kind of debunk the paranormal. He famously had like a check that he would offer out to people that could prove to him that he was really that they really had paranormal abilities. There was he did a battle with Uri Geller. And actually, back in the day, I actually read like a biography of Amazing Randy, and I was really hyped on him. He's a very fascinating guy, and
That's fascinating.
there's I didn't realize how deeply entrenched he is in this movie. There's like I said, there an Australian talk show, late night talk show done by Don Lane, and there's a a very famous in Australia, not in the U.S., but a famous appearance of Amazing Randy on there, where Don he was debunking one of the beloved paranormal people that would be on the show, and Don Lane famously kind of got mad at him and stormed off the set, which is kind of reenacted in the movie. I did send you a clip of that with Don Lane. I think, yeah, there you go.
Here's somebody
um,
who wasn't a singer, wasn't a dancer, certainly was no Sammy Davis Jr. or Marsha Hines, but she was a
yeah, if you
lady who
cut
made
like
more
about
impact,
a
I would
minute into it,
suggest.
I
Well,
think
you couldn't
if you
call them
get
concert
past this,
tours.
they're kind of reminiscing about it, and yeah, that's the psychic there,
Now,
and
this
then
is lecturing at the Dulles Brooks
and
Hall
then
in Melbourne.
yeah.
Look at that.
She also went to Sydney and various other parts of Australia. As I say, she was seen by an excess of 40,000 people, which
Absolutely
is quite
incredible, isn't it? Unbelievable.
She incidentally is still in England. I believe her health has
Right,
not been
so
100%
this is-
in the last couple of months.
Yeah,
Of
if
course,
you
she would
skip
be
a
watching
little
our
bit,
program
it'll
tonight,
have
but-
the clip of James.
This is all the stuff that you're going to prove.
Yeah, there you go.
You go against a lady like Doris Stokes who never harmed anybody in her whole life, and you call her a charlatan and a fake.
You know a great deal about it.
Yes, I do. You said that she was a liar on the radio. You called her a liar.
No.
And that woman wouldn't
No,
lie to
I have
anybody.
never
And I don't know
called
whether
the
she's
lady a
right or
liar.
wrong,
I
but
have
she wouldn't
never
lie to
called
anybody.
the
And we're
lady
going for
a
a commercial break, and you can pick
We'll be back.
Oh, man. Oh.
Nice fella, James.
So yeah, that's the clip. But yeah, if you've seen Late Night with the Devil, you can clearly see what's seeing that sort of.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They kind of
that goes
parodied
right.
that.
Yeah, that leans right into it, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
kind of surprisingly ties to Australia. You don't realize that, but I think that gives it kind of a tick feel to it, because it feels like a real moment that would be in a late night talk show in the 70s or early 80s. That
There we go. That's the one.
but yeah, since we don't have
Ian
that
Bliss.
in our DNA like the Australians do, it feels weirdly authentic, but then there's not anything we could parallel it to,
Right.
like people in Australia. It's kind of a brilliant way to do it. And you kind of take advantage of your location, because back in the day, stuff that would happen on that was big news in the U.S. that happened on U.S. television. Over in Australia or England, they had no idea. They didn't have their they didn't watch U.S. shows, so or well, at least not the certain shows like the late night shows.
Yeah,
So
no, they
that's
have a different. Well, they have a different standard over there too, right? So,
yeah,
like
yeah,
the Survivor over there and some other things are they have different
their
standards.
version,
Like
yeah.
yeah, like they allow a little bit more things that we would be prudes about over here on their
Mhm.
airwaves, and it's just a little bit of a different world down under, just a little bit, but
Yeah.
they definitely have their own feel too.
And
Australians do not like to be pushed around, much like Americans and many people.
one thing that kind of threw me off about this movie is, it's sort of kind of has the it's sort of like the U.S. late night talk show. But then, as I was watching it, the time on it, I was like, well, those late night shows are either an hour or an hour and a half, and there
Right.
was sort of like it wasn't quite, it was over an hour, but not quite an hour and a half, and that was kind of throwing me off back in the back of my mind. But also in Australia, their talk shows would just run until they stopped. So
Well,
they kind of, yeah.
yeah. So, and I suppose you could kind of go back a little bit further, but I'm not going back to like black and white, like
Hmm.
50s, 60s. I'm picking up with 70s because they tell you in the film. So I'm automatically discluding. But in the 70s, Tom Schneider, Dick Cavett, et cetera, Johnny Carson, obviously. But what was my point there? Yeah. So the those shows like Tom Schneider used to cover 90 minutes.
Hmm.
And actually, over time, it got shorter. So did David Letterman, and so did Carson. Like, actually, the show was even longer than that. It would go from, it like where, and they even, I love it too because, and this is only because I'm such a nerd. Um, but they would do their advertisements. They would do like commercials like we do. Well, they would kind of do them, but they were like very primordial ones where it would be like this whole show is sponsored by Cavendish or Lucky
Hmm.
Strikes or kind of
Hmm.
whatever, and then the host
Hmm.
would like do an ad, which is so funny because if you go back to like black and white Johnny Carson, etc., you'll
Hmm.
see the way they did ads is exactly like how uh, boobs like you and me, if we were big or whatever, would do an ad, like we would say my personal testimonial or whatever. Like it's just kind of funny how that works. But they nailed the authenticity on the late night talk. Even the graphics, we didn't talk about that, but the graphics
Hmm.
kind of reminded me of David Letterman. Honestly, I think he had
Hmm.
some of the better graphics.
Yeah.
Going in and out, like the interstitial or whatever that is for the show, like when
Hmm.
they're going on break,
Yeah.
or whatever. I love that. Even love
Yeah. Yeah.
they had to have a C too in like the uh, station name too, so they nailed that down just fine. So
Yeah, I like that it was the Night Owls show. Yeah,
oh
and
yeah,
I
that's
like
another
the
thing too. Yeah,
reoccurring.
very
Yeah,
iconic. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, kind of a reoccurring theme of owls. With the owl night owl show, and then there's the sort of the Grove, which is sort of like a underground sort of a cult
Oh
thing,
yes.
maybe that they mentioned early on, that Jack, the host, may be involved with. That kind of gets introduced at the beginning, and then during the course of the show, it kind of gets a little buried, and then it loops back. But
Right. Just kind of
anytime
waiting.
owls are mentioned, I always think of Twin Peaks, and the owls are not what they seem. But yeah, I always have. And also, another thing that it kind of touches on that is the satanic panic. When
Oh, he did. Yeah.
everybody was scared about Satan and everything, and the movie also has sort of influences of the Exorcist, and the demon that gets channeled through the girl. Her name for it is Mr. Wriggles, which is sort of I think kind of a nod to Captain Howdy from The Exorcist.
Okay.
And then I'm a big reader of horror novels, and I have to mention, it also reminded me of a newer book, it's criminal that hasn't been made into a movie yet. It's a Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay,
Okay.
which it's basically about maybe a possession that a reality sort of TV show is kind of covering, and it's really really good. But yeah, if this kind of piqued your interest and you like to read, you might want to take a look at a Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. He also did they also made another one of his movies, a Cabin in the Woods. There that the M. Night Shyamalan movie about
Oh yeah.
the Cabin movie that came out a few years ago, that was based off of that. But yeah, but yeah, the Satanic Panic. That was there's sort of kind of like that vibe with the Satanic cult, and Back then, you had Anton LaVey and the
Mhm.
Satanic Church.
They
All
boy
of
they
that sort of kind of mixed up in the DNA of this movie. And
right.
again, none of it's being parodied.
Right.
Most of it is just a sort of grist for the mill for this movie. It just kind of adds layers and layers to the movie. That yeah, that's one of the things I loved about this movie is like I said, my initial hesitancy was, oh, this is just going to be a television show with the demon possession,
Right.
and that is definitely on this movie, but
It
there's
is,
so
but
many
it's
layers added into it that it becomes something more than
right.
that. It's kind of has a comment about watching television and television being a cult in and of itself, and maybe a broader cult that where back in the day, millions and millions of people would watch these things, whereas you don't quite get that today, where everybody was watching.
Well, yeah, well, back in the day, like Johnny, like all the people that were like going back in time, the further back you went, closer to, like I said, like the black and white days, uh,
Hmm.
those were the only things that were on. So, like at any
Absolutely.
given point, a third of America, which is like millions and millions of people, tuned in, and that became habit and pattern. But yeah, uh, 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 all these little pieces are like little Lego bricks that build upon the tapestry that is this movie. And then you kind of zoom in a little bit, but then you zoom out and you see a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and you kind of see the connective tissue. Um, it's not, I'm not quite clear. I probably need another 3 watch throughs for me to get it, I guess. But like you said, the Grove, that's something that has been mentioned. Kind of like the
Hmm.
whatever society, secret society kind of
Hmm.
type thing. But
Yeah.
obviously, they put a paranormal spin on this, on the whole thing, and as it
Yep.
goes, it just builds its own world, and you kind of are pulled in even more. And
Hmm.
all these people, they touch all the bases. It's like almost like they make like a 5 pointed star when they kind of connect the dots on Anton LaVey and this, they call it Braxis is the demon of the
Praxis,
moment,
yes.
but which I'm not really familiar with, but there's
Hmm.
some kind of common trivia type late night that they even nail
Hmm.
that too in the dialogue. That is just perfect. They really did. You can tell that 10 years they honed this thing all the way down to, I mean, down to perfection, to as smooth as it could possibly be. So the
Hmm.
interactions, the questions, the back and forth, the
Hmm.
kind of tension that is created. There's, like I said, there's a couple parts like where it gets disjointed a little bit and you're kind of taken out a little bit, but for the most part, it all works. And you're still there, like in the
Hmm.
commercial break.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
actually,
and the
hold on one second. Hold on one second.
uh, yeah. I also like the interaction between Jack and Gus. Rhys, he's Rhys Auteri, the guy who did the role of Gus. He's kind of interesting because it's sort of his first big movie. He didn't do they saw him in like one of the guys saw him in an ad for a
Right,
local theater thing,
right
and
on.
they picked him up. And yeah, so the guy was kind of pessimistic. He really didn't think he would get the role. But yeah, I think he did a fantastic job as the co-host, or has shades of Paul Schaefer as a band leader, as well as Ed McMahon. He was in the interplay between both Jack and Gus. It felt like they'd been doing it for years. Like there's a history with them, in that you're really kind of invested in that. Whereas it could have played off very differently. I think both David and Rhys are like to do improv, and there's a lot of improv there that they did that really kind of deepens their what you think of as their friendship, that's there on the screen and off as well.
Yeah, there's genuine interaction between the two, that you can pick up on. Yeah, and I was going to say Annie Richter was another one that I got, but that just goes to the talent that they pull from everybody's kind of impression of like what it should be from their
Hmm.
particular character's point of view, and he kind of adds a layer too of kind of like a natural I don't know. Like, I'm not, I don't know.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah,
actually
he's
plays it.
sort of the cipher for us as the audience. He's sort
True.
of like what he's there to say what we would normally say on if we were there. It's like, what's going on? You know, this is crazy. What are you doing? Maybe we shouldn't be doing this.
And you're talking about that particular scene, like where he kind of becomes the second act in a way of the
Yeah.
cinematic seance, like where there's two kind of
Mhm.
contrasting internal. The compare and contrast on this is very strong as you step through the movie, and we're not really giving anything away, but
Mhm.
the whole thing really goes to their interaction. And again, like I say, the first half of this movie, I would say you get the sense of this warmth, kind man, but something is going on there under the surface to kind
Mhm.
of pull from last week's.
Mhm.
There's a little bit more depth there going on. And then the back half of the movie is a little bit more on the darker side, negative side.
Mhm.
What do you think
Mhm.
as far as it goes? Like for their and you mentioned that the amazing Randy there, the gentleman there that are was inspired
Mhm.
by trying to Ian Bliss, Carmichael, the great Carmichael or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Ian Bliss did a wonderful role, and yeah, it's sort of, and it's not a parody of the Amazing Randy. He makes him kind of a little bit more smarmy and
Right,
a lot more smarmy
a
and
little bit more
kind of
sharp.
unlikable. Whereas Amazing Randy was a very charming individual. So but yeah, so it's not one to one.
No,
But yeah, I loved how that you could find ties to real life in this movie, but they do their own kind of spin on it and make it their own. Again, it's not like a parody movie where you go, oh yeah, it's like the member berries. Oh yeah, okay, I remember this. Yeah, I remember watching something like this. And
yeah,
no, this kind of gives you the feel of it, but then it takes off into a different, sometimes in a very different direction than where you're expecting
where
it
you
to, which is
exactly.
the wonderful nature of this movie.
Yeah, yeah,
And
he kind
also,
of yeah,
yeah.
he plays kind of as a foil, and I don't know if you noticed this or not, but he came in and he was much more affable and much more warm at the first part of
Mhm,
the thing, and then as
mhm,
things kind of progressed, he got a lot more I mean, he was already kind of assertive, and then he went from assertive to aggressive, and it kind of picked up from there, and you kind of go into it. So I just kind of think that's interesting too, because you have to do the delicate balance of, like, you can't call the audience a bunch of idiots. Then you
yep.
become the
Mhm,
heel, and not just the foil, but you become kind of where that showmanship, so to speak. But every actor on the set gave their own really great way. So I'm impressed.
mhm,
I would be surprised that that was his first at bat, as it
yeah.
goes. So, and he did a very good job.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, after this movie, he said he got his agent, so his first
well, I hope to see him
television agent, or and television movie agent, yeah.
he's so
So
authentic.
yeah,
Yeah,
hopefully,
yeah.
yeah, so hopefully we'll see him in the future. And also, I've got to say, June and Lily, they did a great job. And June is the psychiatrist, and she brings on Lily, the demon possessed girl.
Oh
Yeah,
yes,
both
and Ingrid.
Laura Gordon and Ingrid Torelli, they did a fantastic job.
Absolutely.
She's she's very creepy. I think a lot of it has to do with her eyes, but also obviously her acting is spot on. The directors said that off screen, Ingrid as herself, she's so nice and kind that you would let her babysit your kid, but on set when she was Lily, he said there was something very creepy about her, very
Right.
off-putting, that she was able to do. She could to kind of get into the role, she would kind of look into the mirror and get those weird looks that she
Crazy
would
eyes
give.
going. Yeah. Crazy looks
Yeah.
going. She did a masterful job of that, creeping me out for
Mhm,
sure. Yeah,
yeah,
I was gonna say too with her. She does have that like it's almost like she sees the world, or she sees what's going on in front of her, and then it takes her like a beat or two to kind of connect the dots, and she does that so well, like in a way
mhm,
that isn't too slow and not too fast. And she's pivotal in this for you to get there and believe it. And there's a natural dichotomy, and they roll through this very quickly too. So you're not quite sure how long the movie is, the show is, but you kind of sense that it's north of an hour for sure. Maybe south of 90
definitely.
minutes, so to speak. But it plays wonderfully too to that. And really the movie outside of that really isn't that much longer. It has its own length, but it's not too
there's
long.
like a bookends to it. But Lily,
Right.
she did a great role as Lily. There's the 4K I got has some interviews. There's an interview with her, and she kind of comes across as just a regular teenage kid in the interview. So, contrasting that to her role, you can tell that she really is a pretty remarkable actress. But there's she also said that the directors gave her some horror movies to look at to maybe kind of get a sense of her role, but she said she didn't watch those because she didn't want to
Interesting.
find herself imitating an actress in one of those movies. She wanted to give her pure read of what she felt like the character would do. She also said that the actress that played June, Laura Gordon, she said that they're all Australian, but she said that Laura had her American accent during the whole shoot of the movie, that she didn't fluctuate from one to the other, and she was very impressed by that. But it seems like
That's
everybody
insane.
was sort of method actors in this movie, and that they were all kind of just being who they were in character for the most part of the movie. One fun thing I found that Rhys said that during the whole movie, David, who plays Jack, he was very much missing the U.S. because they shot it in Australia, and was wanting a Chicago style pizza.
That's so funny.
So they found out a place in Australia that makes Chicago style pizza, and on David's birthday during the shoot, they celebrated with Chicago style pizza,
That's awesome.
which made everybody happy. I'm
That's so
sure.
funny. Yeah, it would be really. I would be not starstruck to meet, folks. Like I don't really get starstruck like that. Like I don't
Mhm.
worship these people, but I would be. I think it would be very cool to have a beer with some of these folks that they do what they do so well, or even better to catch them in a podcast. So I'm going to be on the lookout for. Um, I think actually Ingrid does a spook. So she did some kind of spooktacular or South Jersey horror podcast series. So I saw that on the thing. So I'm gonna have to check that out. Well, it looks like one episode. So looks like she sat down.
Yeah.
Those things kind of cool, or things are cool that are unique to our era today, like where
Mhm.
we consume these things. But
Yeah.
all these people have very good personality. They have good chemistry. From the people that are in the back to the glitches that you see throughout the kind of
Mhm.
the unusual
Mhm.
things that happen that are kind of like weird, you don't really pay
Mhm.
too much attention to them. You
Yeah.
even you even have like the wacky audience participation too. They check that
Yeah.
box. They check every box. The only thing they didn't
Mhm.
do was like man on the street. But of course, man on the
Exactly.
street wasn't a thing back then, so of course there that wouldn't quite fit if they tried to jumble that in there. But all the things that they
Right.
did, all the boxes they checked, make a solid foundation for what they build on. And as you kind of go into the
Mhm.
story, what did you think of how how it does tie to like kind of real life, figures, like you mentioned, we did, well, I think you mentioned Uri Geller too, for the
Mhm.
Amazing Randy. I saw that. I think you did
Yeah.
mention it before, but
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
interesting.
The one of the things that was cool, when we were gonna record this yesterday, but happenstance happens, and
Right.
we had to postpone. But it kind of was beneficial because I was going through. There's a box set of 7 obscure uh Japanese horror movies that I was watching, and I was kind of making my way through them. I'm on the 5th movie in the box set, and I happened to watch Noroi, The Curse, and it's a horror movie. It turns out to be a found footage movie, which it's sort of it kind of introduces,
Interesting.
it's like a lost documentary. And sort of the introduction is sort of like introducing the guy who did the documentary. It almost kind of parallels Late Night with the Devil. It kind of has
Hmm.
the little setup for what you're about to watch, and then you get to see the documentary, and then there's a little bit at the end that kind of encapsulates it. It's a wonderful movie, which maybe we'll talk about it um later on
Sure.
another podcast. It's fantastic. But I was watching the extras on it, and one of the extra things in Late Night with the Devil, they talk about how the how it got finally made after 10 years is they were introduced to the producer, an American producer named Roy Lee, who kind of jump started this movie and got it made. And back in the late 90s and the early 2000s, Roy Lee was instrumental in getting the movie that we all know and love when we talked about The Ring into American theaters and the American conscious. He also brought in The Grudge, Ju-on, and he brought in the movie I was talking about, No Roy, The Curse.
Oh, okay.
He was instrumental
Interesting.
of getting it across the pond as well,
No
and
kidding.
getting it kind of, so he knows what
Quality.
works as far as horror. And it's a name that I had no idea who he was, but now it's very prominent, and I can see where he's been very influential in the stuff that I love and watch. So shout out to Roy Lee for bringing us fantastic horror movies back in the 2000s and even today with Late Night with the Devil.
No
And
kidding.
it's always fascinating to find that little synchronicity between the stuff we watch. You know, me watching Late Night with the Devil and then watching this movie, and that those movies had ties to each other is crazy. You know.
Right, right, right. No, it is funny how that kind of comes together. Well, just
Mhm.
what you watch and in kind of seeing what's out there, it it is fun. And this is why we love this thing and we love covering different. We've expanded the genres that we've covered because we like to find these things because there are some things that are like right adjacent that you just have to
Mhm.
cover.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
and
there's
a
a
little shout out.
pedigree is what it
Yeah.
is.
I did send you some links. I did end up watching
Oh,
the
yes.
4K by Second Sight. Second Sight did a wonderful 4K of this, and there's a lot of wonderful extras. Like I said, they talked to Rhys, they talked to the writer director, and they've got some. And also, I bought this along with the Blair Witch Blu-ray, which I didn't realize I was getting two found footage movies, kind of a
That's
double
funny.
feature, which was kind of fun. But yeah, there's like the special edition of that, which has those little cards. Just went with the regular 4K. I didn't have. There's like a little book that comes with it as well,
Right.
that you could get extra. But yeah, I went ahead and cheaped out and got just the Blu-ray there for $27. And one of the things you got to watch out for in these, this is a UK site. 4Ks
Mm,
are region free, but Blu-rays often are region locked. So
right.
but one of the cool things that I got this 4K because at the time, Umbrella's special edition of this was sold out. But if you go to the Umbrella link I sent you, there now this is just the Blu-ray. It's not 4K, which I don't know as far
VHS.
as film
Yeah.
quality whether or not 4K really gives a whole lot. But this is a very cool Blu-ray. So if you have extra shekels, you might want to get this because it has VHS of
Huh.
just the show without all the extras. It's like you got like that
That
VHS
is
of the thing.
awesome.
And
Wow.
it
Wow.
also
Wow. Wow.
comes with a mock-up of a TV guide
Right.
with Jack on the cover, as well as a little book that kind of imitates the Conversation with the Devil, June's book there, which
That
is
is
kind of a
awesome.
wonderful little thing.
These
Yeah,
are wonderful coffee
kind of
table
almost wish
things.
that I got this instead of the Second Sight one, but
Yeah.
it's very cool. But yeah. So if you have the extra money and love Late Night with the Devil, this may be go to, because it had originally sold out. I guess they did a reprinting of it, and they've
Okay.
got some more in. So yeah, if you know someone, or if you are that person that loves this movie, you might
Yeah.
want to pick this up.
Man, I'll tell you what, this is probably the one of those movies that I start out like I like it generally. It's just good,
Hmm.
that I'll probably end up loving a little bit more and more each time I watch it. Well, because there's so much more to watch too, to pull apart and later on
Hmm.
and unpack um, as it goes. But even the coloring of the it, it
Yeah, the
it
set.
it yeah, and the way they dress, the way they talk, their mannerisms, you accepted that you were watching the authenticity was very very much on point, every bit of the way. Even
Yeah.
the way the guests moved, and because if you're a new guest on a show and you don't kind of know the etiquette, you're not going to know how to move around the chairs, but
Hmm.
the Carmichael, character, he had been there before, obviously, so he knew
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of the. So
He
there
was
was like,
relaxed. Yeah.
right, yeah. That's the
Yeah.
wonderful thing, yeah. And then they kind of joked about um, oh well, we got bourbon, but there's no water here, which is
Yeah.
and the smoking too. That like these are all kind of staples that kind of like were hangover from the 50s and the 60s, like where they would just be sloshed like on if you go back and you watch some Don Rickles, or it's like some of these guys that kind of came back on, and like they came on Carson in the 80s, or the 70s or 80s if they were alive, in the 90s. Well, not so much in the 90s, but in the 80s, like Jackie Gleason, like, yeah, the guy was probably three sheets to the wind, But anyway, that was like how it was. So, the way that all these folks interact with each other is very good, and it just adds to the substantiality of what you see, to the
Mhm.
overall, you know, uh, being there. You feel like you kind of feel like you're in the studio audience, essentially there, almost a character
Absolutely.
in and of because the audience is a character too, in a way.
Mhm.
Kind of the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah, and
point
then
of it.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely, and I love the authentic nature of this movie. Everything's kinda authentic, like you said, the people acting in it, but like you said, the set looks authentic,
Mhm.
the rug of the
Oh,
set looks it looks
the
like, the
coloring of
rug
the
of a
rug, right?
and also you gotta point out the clothes as well, because we're far enough along, in 2024, you can go to the thrift store and find clothes from the '70s anymore, so you you kind of have to reproduce this stuff, and they did a fine job of making it look like clothes that you would see from the '70s. Both both the people on the stage as well as the audience members that they cut to. One other thing I'll say about this movie is, a lot of times when I watch a movie that I really love, I kind of regret not seeing it in the theater,
Hmm.
But this movie, I kind of felt like it works best at home, because it's a television show, so you kind of feel right at home watching it on your TV at home. It's almost like you're watching something that maybe you shouldn't watch. It's like they kind of hype it up like that. It's like here's the show that lives in infamy that no one's seen in years. Here it is, and you're watching it on your television at home. It kind of gives you that kind of intimate feel of watching something that you would watch on TV.
Yeah, no, I got that in and out with this, and I was just thinking of how oh, I don't know how far we're kind of in the back half of this thing. I don't know if
Yeah.
you want to open it up to spoilers, or if you want to give fair
Yeah,
warning,
yeah,
or you want to wait
yeah.
another 10 minutes, or like what do you want to do, my friend?
No, I think we both give it a big thumbs up. We both
Absolutely.
really enjoyed this movie. So yeah, if you think this might be in your bag, definitely check it out. But yeah, we'll get a little bit into spoilers. But yeah, so what did you want to talk about first as
I
far as
couldn't
spoilers?
turn. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah. So this point forward, we're gonna go in the spoiler territory, and I couldn't make this observation without getting into this. Um, so at first, like I was saying, that's kind of the key. Is you're the audience. You are just as fundamental to this as the host himself, in some ways. Um, you go, and I feel like I was saying, the kind of the three big impressions that we'll get into. The first one I already mentioned, like where the first half is positive and the back half is very dark. At the same time, you realize as an audience member, you're not just watching a show, but you're also kind of watching, you're kind of in a court in a way. I'll just put it that way. You're in a court and a judgment is being rendered or something is happening and it's either that or a play, whatever you want to call it. Either way, you are sitting, maybe not, maybe you're in the jury, I don't know, maybe you're just in the gallery, who knows, whatever you want to take with that. I'm not trying to, paint a Picasso over here with my poor commentary, but I got to say that focus shifts when it gets to the back half because it gets very heavy very quickly. And you had mentioned you had seen it a few times, but you had also mentioned a couple spots like where you see, flashes of like where there is. That's another thing with
Kind of a
subliminal.
ghostly image, yeah.
Right, subliminal messaging is all over this. Like there's fingerprints
Yeah.
all over, and sometimes that's actually part of the. Again, amazingly part of the show. The only thing they didn't do is play something backwards. Like that's the only
Yeah.
thing they didn't do. But otherwise, they hit every single kind of nook and cranny. They kind of swept it all up. They swept up all of the satanic panic, the talk show thing. The guest interaction, all of it. So anyway, what did you think about that? Did you kind of feel like your perspective? Where did you land on the ending of this film too? Like, were you satisfied? Did you kind of understand the connective tissue there? Because there's like so much, but it did kind of loosely remind me of a comic book a little bit, The Court of Owls for Batman, but that's a whole other kind of thing. But it's just owl related, but that court thing. But anyway.
Yeah, it's there's sort of like Jack. Oh, are we still here?
Yep, you're good.
But
you're good.
but yeah, there's sort of like that the whole satanic cult thing sort of kind of comes back at the end, whereas Braxis the demon, he wants to have the biggest reach, and what bigger reach is television.
Right.
So yeah, it's sort of like the ending of
Like
the
an
movie, sort
evolution?
of the reenactment of the child sacrifice that was being done within the home. It's being amplified to to the end of the movie, where Jack ultimately sacrifices Lily in front of a studio audience, and not only a studio audience, but the people watching at home. So it's bringing the demon into the hearts of the American public, and it's there's that, but then there's also, like you said, sort of a Jack is sort of going through the court of his own self, sort of the damnation of his soul. He's sort of reliving his crimes and misdeeds as that happens, and then
Right.
he realizes at the end that he was being played by played as a like a fiddle by the demon at the end. So yeah, there's sort of like those two angles. But there's also, when I was watching the commentary, one of the commentators on the thing, she mentioned that she's watched this movie several times, and she kind of sees June as a villain as well, because within the movie she's always saying we shouldn't do this,
Right.
but she doesn't really resist too much. She kind of plays along, and she knows that Jack wants to do this. She knows
Right.
that this is going to happen. And so, how much of a part did she play in this? Did she really not want this to happen, or did she kind of play kind of resist as well? And that this is something that she really wanted, because this would have really jump started her career. She'd be all over the place if they were able to pull this off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she didn't have pure intentions, so to speak, within this movie.
Well, that's kind of funny because it kind of everybody kind of brings either their own arrogance or their own kind of self drive or ambitions that they layer over this, which is kind of like the hook in, obviously, pride, to and ambition to degree that is astronomical. But at the same time, though, nobody's really innocent, right? Everybody kind of gets it, but at the same time, it's not the same kind of standard storyline like Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino. Kind of like where there is this kind of moment, and in the moment there's a decision made that could affect the kind of goes back that there's echoes of it in Rosemary's Baby, which we covered both of those, like kind of the frontwards and backwards of that kind of that world, like where there's the devil and there's like the next layer of it. This takes that in a very unique way, and it works because it's kind of like, nope, it is actually, there is the entity that is Braxis or whatever, the devil, that wants its power more, and it's kind of evolving. That's what you kind of see as it goes, and it has to do that to make itself a threat to provoke what it wants. So it's so manipulative every step of the way, even when presumably you're getting Ingrid's base character, her base self is still kind of very much like understands like that she is a vessel, a willing vessel, for lack of anything, but which is even more creepy too, because of her backstory that they do touch on when they're kind of building up who these people are and why you should care, essentially. But it's just very creepy too, like just the whole thing, like where you end up and where he ends up, and like kind of like
it makes it a the whole thing a little bit more grander than what I originally thought envisioned this movie would be. It's kind of and that's to kind of compare it again with that movie I watched last night, No Ray. It was sort of like a documentary kind of style movie about a guy investigating paranormal activity, and it's very much in the tradition of Blair Witch, and that movie takes it in a totally new and different direction, and it had many layers to it that are you're not accustomed to found footage movie of having, because a lot of found footage movies are kind of basic. There's there's like the a singular scare that's kind of going throughout the movie, whereas this movie had like a lot of investigation and adding upon the whole thing that makes it very fascinating, and almost kind of like of a mystery as to that you're kind of tracking down the answers to, and much like this movie, in that it's not just about demon possession. There's a lot more layers to it. There's a lot of things that you can kind of dig in, and there's stuff that they kind of touch on that they don't go fully into detail on, that you could probably spend afternoon kind of digging around and kind of finding out more about that, like the Grove. You can kind of dig around with that, and there's a lot of different influences on this movie. One of the things that the writer directors were talking about was like a Network and King of Comedy. Those were kind of the influence on how the movie would look and feel. But we'd be remiss not to mention Ghost Watch, which came out in 1992. It's sort of like a mockumentary that was made in in England, that a lot of people thought was real. Basically, I think it was shown on Halloween or close to it, and it was sort of like investigation into the paranormal and ghost, and a lot of people were frightened because they actually used like actual news reporters, so it made it look like there was a sense of authenticity to the to that. And the people were freaking out thinking it was real. And they can also kind of go all the way back to War of the Worlds with that with H.G. Wells is kind of a radio show of alien invasion, and people thinking that was real.
right.
There's sort of like that
War of the Worlds,
War of the World. Yeah, there's sort of like that with the mockumentaries and Blair Witch and all of this found footage stuff that kind of makes it look real. There's that sense of there's always going to be some gullible person that thinks, this might have really happened. This really happened. And there's sort of like a mischievous nature to found footage as well. That kind of makes me smile every once in a while with this stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah, this does it quite well. There's it was probably very tempting to kind of go into parody territory with this, but I think they did a very authentic job of making it uh of its own world, and of its the only other thing that kind of bent reality a little bit too much for me was sort of like the behind the scene footage.
right.
They wouldn't have had cameras rolling during the commercial breaks.
Well,
That wouldn't have happened.
that
But you kind of have to stretch your disbelief for that to build
that
the
was
story.
exactly what I was talking about when I said there's just a little minor kind of disjointedness. Is like, wait a second, you wouldn't be, I wouldn't be seeing this. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But then you're like, oh wait, I watched a movie. Okay, no big deal, whatever. Kind of move
Right,
on.
yeah.
But like, yeah,
let's yeah.
well, and they touch on everything too. They touch on the back scene, like, oh, so and so executive, and if you suck up to him, he'll give you a little bit. He'll be in your pocket for when you need him or whatever, which was exactly what happened in NBC and CBS and all of them. They had the Star, and they actually had a head of talent that would take care of and cater to the stars, be the concierge essentially, to like if their car broke down or whatever, they would be like, hey, here's a brand new Cadillac or whatever, they would do that. But anyway, they hit that all along the line because you have the main, again, it all goes back to the main show, which even reinforces its authenticity to Jack Delroy and his
Yeah.
you kind of think you're seeing like, oh, he's gonna make it, sell a soul, kind of not really. It's kind of like a little bit more by like, it's kind of like the devil or the character is kind of like, you're already here. We know why you're here. Maybe you didn't actively make a commitment, but you know what you're doing, and you are part of my plan.
Yeah, yeah, and one other thing, the guy that plays the amazing Carmichael, Ian Bless, he was originally going to play the head of the studio, and like a few days before they recast him as the amazing Carmichael's, and which is a huge leap. The head of the studio is only like a couple of days of shooting, whereas Carmichael's almost throughout the whole movie. So his role expanded quite a bit, and yeah, it's amazing that he was able to pivot and do that role so well and be able to kind of. He said that he didn't get to talk to David very much before starting shooting, but their actually first time talking was while they're in the makeup chair while they're getting maked up for shooting, and they kind of went through, because he said that they all kind of made up sort of like backstories of who their character was, and so him and David were talking about their backstory for each of their characters, and they were talking about where they would have met previously, and it all kind of matched up. They were able to match it up, say, oh yeah, that works. So that's why they kind of have that rapport as well, that was so looked like they'd known each other for a while, which obviously they didn't know each other before they got on the stage there. But yeah, it's like I said, there's a seems like there's a lot of thought and a lot of care that was put into this movie that really shows. But yeah, I think that sort of kind of covers everything I was going to talk about. Was there anything else that kind of stood out that you wanted to mention?
No, I was just thinking, we get, kind of like we kind of get everybody's involvement. He has some kind of pact that he made at some point. You kind of feel bad a little bit for 5 seconds because you kind of see that he is just they also kind of like have his wife, but I mean,
yeah, the Jack's wife, even the we're kind of in the spoilers, the Jack's wife's ghost kind of shows up. There's a shot with that I noticed where it was on the back of Lily's head, that was kind of superimposed, but there's some like obvious appearances of his wife,
Right.
but I was reading the list on IMDb of where she shows up, and I didn't catch a lot of those. Did you catch any of the obscure ones?
Only one that I caught was and actually I want to bring this back to Under the Silver Lake too, because I rewatched it and I saw kind of like a very interesting thing. Um, I only saw her one time, and that was like when they were like midway through or 2/3 of the way through, and they were it's like her in her hand, and she's like black and white, or she's like or all pale, excuse me, and he's like
Hmm.
she's standing right behind him for like a split second,
Hmm.
and then she's gone.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole
Hmm.
sum total of the whole thing. But I was gonna say
Hmm.
I caught a skull in the you know what? Never mind. That's a different movie. That's another movie that we'll talk about a little bit later. Excuse me. I reversed that. Never mind. Has nothing to do with Under the Silver Lake. It was another movie I saw with my daughter this weekend, but because we were in a movie watching a movie. But no,
Gotcha.
I would. How many did they say? Like, were there a few or so? I haven't looked.
Yeah, there's like when they were showing the like the dagger and the different accoutrement to the
Hmm.
satanic ritual. There's like a
Okay.
mirror there, I think, and her reflections in the mirror.
Oh,
There's
interesting.
during the behind the scenes things, there's a like a mirror or something that she glimpses in. There's a lot of like little ones that I definitely didn't catch out. So it might be fun to do another rewatch and have that list of
That's
her
funny.
appearances and see if we could catch those all. But yeah, in the comments down below, if you spotted her in an obscure spot, let us know. And then also, obviously, like and subscribe if you like our channel, and give us a big thumbs up. We'd love to have you. We're trying to create a little community, nerd community, and so yeah, we definitely love our audience out there, and yeah, whether you came from Reddit or because I think our last video had a lot of people that came in from Reddit.
Some
So
synergy
shout
there
out to
going
you
on.
guys,
Yeah.
you peeps.
Yeah, there's some synergy going on with the Reddit, so credit where due.
So yeah, you can check us on Reddit, and I'm on X as FirstLastNerdom. So you can subscribe to catch up with all of our postings, and we'll keep you up to date on what's out there for you to see about us.
Absolutely. Yeah. I also join me and Tom for the conversation that we no doubt will run into and have at some point, hopefully. I know we kind of we kind of bounce things off of each other once in a while for ideas or this or that, or hey, check out this, but love to have you. Also available on long form content. It's my website. I do anything I can find that's fun or heavy or whatever that I want to talk about long form. Sometimes make videos on that, but always said we'd appreciate it if you could hit that bell if you do subscribe, so you know that we're coming out. So what are we at? 234. So actually this will be 235. So but we'd appreciate it all the same.
Yep. And dreamer, you're awake, so it is done.
It is done.